Hi, I'm Dave Steigerwald. I'm the director of the World War II study program in the Department of History. And I'm lucky enough to be joined today by Nick Pietrow, who's from Independence, Ohio. Nick was in the 2018 World War II cohort just last year. And he's gracious enough to come by and just have a conversation about the program, how it fits into his work, and why he became involved in it. So we're just going to go ahead and start exploring those things. So, Nick, one of the things about you is that you're a finance major, right?
Correct.
And so that makes you like almost exactly half of the 130 students who've been in the program since it began in 2013. That is, you're a non-major. So I'm curious if you could explain to us what attracted you to the program, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, there were two things that really attracted me to this particular program. One of them was that one of my undergrad goals was to study abroad. And the second was that World War II is one of the history passions that I have. I've always enjoyed learning about World War II, and that stems from two family connections that I have to World War II. And so I was in the STEP program, and I explored a variety of study abroad experiences, and I happened to stumble upon this particular program, and I felt that it was the perfect blend between my goal of studying abroad and also studying a subject that I really enjoyed.
You mentioned family connections. What were they?
So my dad's dad, so my grandfather was a survivor of a concentration camp. He was a Polish political prisoner. And about 8 or 9 years ago, my grandma told us this information. He passed away back in the 80s, and there was never a mention that he was in a concentration camp to my dad or any of his siblings. And so when she told us this news, it kind of sparked this interest in me and my dad in World War II. And then more recently, I discovered that I have a relative on my other side of the family who was an American soldier, and he was in World War II over in Europe. And I actually have an artifact from his experiences, at least so we think, that is in the family and in my possession.
Yeah, that's great. The family connections are really interesting. So in order to do the program, you had to take a few classes in the history department, and you got a minor through the
Correct,
program,
yes.
right? So that goes along with your finance major nicely, I think. Did you have a hard time arranging for those classes? Were there obstacles to a non-major getting the classes on your schedule?
I personally did not experience any major obstacles when it came to scheduling. I think Fisher does a good job of offering a lot of different time slots, so I was able to fit the history classes in my schedule. However, I will say that I knew that I was pursuing this particular program, and I understood that there were prerequisite courses that I had to take, and so I planned my semesters ahead of time and was taking one history class per semester leading up to the program versus taking 2 or 3 at the same time. And I think in terms of workload, because the history classes do require a fair amount of reading and writing, it definitely helped me to have those spaced out. So if there's the thought of potentially taking or pursuing this program, or you know that you're in it, it definitely helps to spread out the coursework, because that way it's not too overwhelming.
Sure. So as a finance major, you had to have been concerned about the finances of the trip, right?
Yeah.
So were we able to help you out to make it possible?
Oh, absolutely. I received 2 scholarships to help make my experience possible, and it's definitely I guess that you call it, the bang for your buck on the trip is incredible. There's just so many different experiences you see, and it's like a all-in-one package. You experience the different sites, museums, memorials, just there's so much included in the trip that I don't think is always, I know I didn't fully grasp how much we were truly going to do in such a condensed 30-day window in 5 cities. It's truly an awesome experience, and definitely the financial, it helps having the aid.
What was your most favorite place? The place you were most surprised about?
I think for me, it would have to be going to Auschwitz. I had an expectation of what it would be like when were going there. But as soon as we step foot off the coach, it's the environment. It's very somber, and there's just this energy or weight that you really feel, and it's just a very humbling experience to walk the same grounds that so many people suffered on, and to see some of the artifacts that they have, and it just brings it that much more to life, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's an awfully heavy experience, and it doesn't seem to diminish if you go back, as I have. What was your favorite place?
Wow, that's a tough question. I personally, I guess I didn't have a place that we visited that I didn't like, but in terms of a favorite place, it's tough. It's definitely between Krakow and London. Those two cities were awesome. I think London, historically, World War II, but also outside of World War II, the city itself is just so cool. And then for myself, Poland, because I have a lot of Polish blood, it was really cool to see Krakow. And then also, one of the cool parts of the trip was a meal where we had so many sausages and pierogies, and it was incredible. It was only like $13 US for an absolute feast, and it was just so cool to experience that as well.
Poland's a Buckeye paradise.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
As a finance major, you are now poised to graduate. You've got a job lined up. Did the World War II program contribute to your finance major at all? Do you feel it strengthened you as a student and as a job candidate?
I definitely think that this particular program strengthened myself as a candidate, and there are several areas where I feel it really impacted me. First is the global perspective that I gained. This trip was the first time I studied abroad, or I went abroad, I should say, and to experience the different cultures, cities, people, food, it was just very eye-opening. And in addition to that, it was really, really interesting to see how the same historical events were perceived differently in each city. And growing up, I've always learned the United States World War II perspective, but then you go to London and you see their perspective, and then you're in Paris and you see how France interprets the war, and just seeing those differences was really cool. And then also, just one area of the trip that's super cool is you are around so many different students, and we're with two professors as the chaperones, and so you're interacting with people with different backgrounds and hobbies and interests, and so over the course of the trip you really learn to communicate and interact and build friendships with different people. It was just a really, really cool experience.
That's terrific. You know, when I think back about you and in the future when your name comes up, you know what I'm going to remember?
What?
That really pleasant afternoon that you and I spent just having a cup of coffee in that little cafe in Bayou. That was sweet. It was a sweet moment.
It really was.
And I like that.
I think we went to look for, wasn't it the market or something? We were seeing if they had the farmer's market, and it was closed. And then someone mentioned coffee. We just kind of walked into a coffee shop. It was definitely one of the cool, more quaint, calm points in the trip. It was nice to just interact, person to person, and kind of away from the energy of everybody being together. It was a nice memory.
Well, look, I wish you the best of luck. You're a great young man, and you're going to do great things. And remember us when you do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.